I'm going to show you how easy it is to carve convincing stone block tunnel portals, retaining walls, and other structures out of foam insulation. A $10 4x8 sheet will make a lot. The tools you will need are an old soldering iron, sandpaper, a knife, a guide board to make the blocks. Mine's 3/4 inches wide and thick enough for my soldering iron, a 3/4 inch square stick, a square, and a wire brush, and not pictured as a measuring tape. Using a 14-inch square piece of blue foam, mark the center and measure out 3.5 inches. Draw vertical lines and a peak at 9 inches. Transfer the center mark to the peak and using a 3/4 inch square block, straddle the center mark and then mark each side of the block. This will become the bottom of your keystone. Now, using the square block again, line it up against the side of the keystone mark in the arch line. Draw the other two sides, move to the next position against the arch so that the lines will be radiating out from the arch, and continue drawing around the blocks. You don't have to be too precise at this point. You will use these lines as guides and can alter them slightly while carving. Now take the square block, placing it a block higher, this time lining up the edge to the center and marking the other side. Repeat this on the other side of the center mark. Now you can draw in the sides of the keystone, but save the top until later. So this is the rough outline. This is to show you how the guide board works with the soldering iron. The tip will penetrate the foam by around 1/4 inch, and the shaft will ride the board to give a steady depth. This is how to run the horizontal courses. Line the board up at the bottom and using the board as a guide, melt the line across the foam. Then move the board up one course by lining it up with the previous line and melt the next line. Lather, rinse, and repeat until you have laid all the courses. Once the courses are done, turn the foam 90 degrees and start carving the vertical lines for the blocks. Line the guide board up with the end and melt every other course. Move the guide board by lining it up with the last set of vertical lines you just drew, and then alternate, skipping every other course. Continue in the alternating pattern and you'll start to see the blocks. This is how the tunnel portal looks after carving the blocks. At this point, cut out the portal using the knife. You won't get nice edges, but we'll fix that later. Continue the mortar lines around the edges inside the portal. Do the same to the top and the sides of the tunnel portal. I even continue the mortar lines around the back slate. Now that all the mortar lines are melted in, I turn to the wire brush. I use one meant for a drill because I have fingertip control, but a regular wire brush would work. Start with the edges and square them up to the pattern, but round off the sharp corners. Don't be afraid to get too aggressive. When it comes to the block face, vary the depth and pressure at various spots to give more 3D to the blocks. When wire brushing a portal, I will undercut the blocks next to the arch and the top so that the arch and top stands out more. Don't be afraid to get too aggressive. Just go with the grain across the blocks and dig in more or less here and there. And hit it with some sandpaper. After a few evenings worth of work, you'll have enough tunnel portals and retaining walls for your whole layout. Now paint them with a light color latex house paint. This color was left over from our house. It can be interior paint since it'll be sealed later. You can get these sample paints from Lowe's for a couple of bucks in any color. It is important to get a good base coat since if there are any pinholes, the spray sealer will attack the foam. Once the base coat is thoroughly dry, mix a brown latex paint with about 10 parts of water to make it thin and runny. I slather it on top of the base coat. If it's too thick, I hit it with a water sprayer in spots. Stand it up and let it run off. Once the brown is dry, I take a black latex thin with about 10 parts of water and slather that on. This time I'll stand it upside down to dry. Now that everything is dry, spray with a Krylon matte or satin finish sealer to protect it from UV and start to set them on your layout. Thanks for watching. I hope I explained the steps clearly. You can turn these out in no time.